Hello, cherished viewers. Welcome again to these Q&A sessions. Captain Amoah from the studios of Aviation Maestro Multimedia. Today we are just going to delve straight into some questions that most of you asked in your comment section, and we just thought it wise to just elaborate on it some more. Let's have some fun and tell your friend, tell another friend that Captain Amoah is here with another banger. That is if we are on our way to work and we are going to the boarding gate. Some airlines have a policy that the crew have to go through the same channel that the passengers went through. Do you remember my other videos where we talked about facilitation? Some also companies have a certain structure where from the operations office, you are driven on the tarmac all the way straight to the aircraft. So you bypass all the channels that the passengers go through. But if it so happens that you have to go through what the passengers go through, as we said in the last video on facilitation, and you see a long line and you want to cut across using your uniform and your ID card, the question is, do you feel guilty? My answer is no. Why? Because we also have things to be doing. As the passengers are doing the check-in formalities, going through security screening, going through the boarding gates, pre-board and everything, we also have to go ahead of you guys to see what's happening on the aircraft. There's so much we have to do on the aircraft before we say, yes, it's time to board. So being in the line will not serve any purpose, you know, otherwise the flight will even delay 30 minutes and you are going to be angry, I'm not going to be satisfied. So cutting that security line and going straight up to the boarding gate and getting the access onto the aircraft, no, I don't feel guilty at all, you know, because of what we call the pre-departure formalities. To cut a long story short, we also have a pre-departure formalities to go through before we call for boarding. So there's no guilty, there's no point being guilty. Okay, so that whenever you see us cutting the line, that's what we're doing. We are not feeling guilty. Yes, I have personally so many times, and it's just a simple phenomenon we have, which I'll be explaining in future videos on aviation security. Actually, those of you teens who are going to be with us on the Aero Teen Summit, there's one aspect that we talk a little bit about aviation security, and we have what we call our security policies. Are you okay? And it ranges from a passenger being angry, you know, using violent words, using the fist, all the way to hijacking. So that's what our security, whenever we say security policies, we try to deal with issues from a temperamental passenger, he or she using violent words, and she attacking the crew, either with the fist, whether it's a punch or it's a slap, it's the same thing, or the last part of it is now the hijacking. So it's not always the hijacking that always has to give us the cause for alarm, but things like even passenger insults and all sorts of unedifying utterances. Okay, so yes, personally I've had to, because whenever it gets to that point, the cabin crew have their procedures that they have to follow, and if still the issue is not addressed, they have to get it to the flight deck. The flight deck will send the flight attendant to give them one last warning to kind of quote unquote behave, or if not, expunged. And the only safety thing that you can do, and the favor that you can do to the other passengers, because if you are flying something like 120 passengers and one person is being belligerent, what do? Do you keep in the aircraft and suffocate everybody with suffocate the rest of the 119 people? No. So we also have our procedures to follow. All we just do is we call the air traffic control to get aviation security on board, and they just whisk the passenger off the flight. It's happened to me so many times, and here again too, yes, it's happened to me and I don't regret doing it. It's all for the safety, and there's also something we call aviation security. Are you okay? And aviation security also deals with issues like theft, you know, dropping off a bomb somewhere. It ranges from so many things in aviation security, and like of which we say unruly passengers in our space. We say unruly passengers. So yes, we've had to expunge. We say offload, and just all you do is hand over to aviation security, write your report, and you are done. I've done that before with no regrets. Emergency, it depends on which part of the flight. Is it before boarding? Is it during boarding? Is it during taxiing out? Is it during takeoff, you know, en route, or about to land? Normally, if it's anything before takeoff, the ground handling team will be able to handle that. All we have to do is to get the passenger offloaded and we hand them over to the ground handling team, or we call for ambulance if it's on ground and the person needs urgent treatment. Then we just have to here again to talk to air traffic control, and air traffic control gets an ambulance. All this is what I'm saying, that anything before the aircraft doors are shut, because it's only when the aircraft doors are shut that we say it has been dispatched. So anything before dispatch, we just call the air traffic control, and the air traffic control gets an ambulance or the medical team, or we call them port health team, to the aircraft and take care of the passenger. In the air, depending on the situation, the flight attendants have been trained to some extent on how to deal with first aid, first aid and a little beyond first aid. Are you okay? If the first aid is able to keep the casualty, that's the passenger, under control, then obviously the captain will have to decide which airport is near for landing, or do we really have to divert? It all depends on the briefing that he gets from the flight attendant. That okay, we've kept the casualty under control, maybe we've given him or her some oxygen, the casualty is fine, that's fine. And that one we can proceed to our destination. It all depends on the timing and the condition of the passenger. But if it's an urgent situation, then we've also planned. Somewhere along the route, we have to look for the nearest airport, tell air traffic control of our problem. Air traffic control is going to get other aircraft out of the way, bring us in, give us the priority, and get ambulances on standby. So it all depends on the nature of the casualty, how much time is left on our flight, and how best the flight attendants have been able to keep that casualty under control before seeking the next help. That's what happens if we were in flight. That's the only thing we can do on in-flight emergency, is to assess the situation, decide whether to divert if it's an urgent situation, or keep the casualty under control and move to the next destination. But all this, we are keeping air traffic informed. So the whole idea is that by the time we park, we taxi in, and after landing and park, ambulances are on standby. Well, it's doable, but the thing is, when are you going to play it, and when do you need to play it? The safest answer is no, because whenever we get onto the flight deck, preparing the aircraft for boarding, passengers are on board, close the door, we are dispatched, we are in the air, right down to touchdown, to parking, open the door. I don't think there's any time to listen to music, no. There will be in-flight entertainment system at the back, yes, for the passengers, but for we, the crew, in fact, it's the least of our problems, the least of our priorities. Even if we are in cruise and we have, let's say, a 10-hour flight journey and we are in cruise for about 7 hours, there are still stuff we need to do. Are you okay? Monitoring the flight, going above our duties and everything. So even if it could be played, we never play it. I don't think it's a priority there, and I've never played anything in our career. So the answer is, yes, you can play, a device can be there to play it, but we don't. And we don't need it at any time in the flight. We don't need it.